So let's talk about Reverend Ike. He was this incredibly powerful and, yeah, pretty controversial figure. He had this whole philosophy he called the science of living, and it all boiled down to one really radical idea: you deserve the best. But it's how he said you could get it that's what really shook things up and turned traditional religion completely on its head.
Okay, so picture this. Reverend Ike is up on stage, and he often kicked things off by talking about a prayer he heard constantly. You know the one, "Oh Lord, I know I'm not worthy." A lot of people thought, hey, that's being humble, right? He'd ask his huge congregations, "So, who here has ever prayed like that?" And you just see a sea of hands go up. Everyone.
But then, bam, this is where he takes a hard left turn. He looked at that prayer and didn't see humility. Nope. He saw a massive roadblock. And he put this huge question out there to everyone. What if that very sentence, "I'm not worthy," is the exact reason you're not getting what you're praying for?
And that right there gets to the absolute core of his whole philosophy. It's actually super simple when you break it down. You just can't have what you don't feel you're worthy of. It's like that feeling of not deserving something creates this invisible force field around you, and it just bounces away all the good things you're trying to attract.
And you gotta love his style, right? It was so unforgettable. He'd say, look, when you pray for something amazing, but then tack on, "but I'm not worthy," you're basically canceling your own order. You're sending two totally mixed signals. And in his classic way, he'd just say, "You might as well forget it, honey."
So, okay, he points out this huge problem in how people think. But he doesn't just leave you hanging. No way. He promises there's a secret to fix it. He'd tell his audience to get ready because he was about to drop a bombshell that could literally change everything for them. And man, he knew how to build the drama. He'd get the whole place silent. You could hear a pin drop. He'd lean in and say, "Listen close now, because this secret, this thing that could change your entire life, was so simple, so direct, he could tell it to you in just 10 seconds.
I mean, the stakes were just massive, right? This wasn't some little life hack. He was claiming that this secret could bring you anything good you could possibly want. And not, someday, but right now, quickly, in what he called the nowness of consciousness.
All right, so here it is, the bombshell. He'd say it, and then he'd say it again for everyone in the back. Anything that you can actually think and feel that you are worthy of must come to you. See that? Not might come to you, not could, it must. He saw it as a law of the universe, an absolute certainty.
So you're probably thinking, okay, that's a big, grand idea, but how does it actually work, like in the real world? Well, to make it super concrete, Reverend Ike went straight for the most powerful example he could think of, $1 million.
He laid it out in 3 simple steps. Step 1, hold that desire, $1 million in your consciousness. But step 2, this was the absolute key, the real engine of the whole thing. You had to genuinely feel that you were worthy of it. Not just think it, but feel it in your bones. If you could do that, he said step 3 was basically automatic. The $1 million had to show up. And he wasn't talking about a slow process. The speed would be shocking. He promised that if you could truly, honestly generate that deep feeling of deserving it, that $1 million would come to you so fast, well, in his words, it would make his head spin.
Now, it's really important to get this. He wasn't just talking about positive thinking or some simple self-help trick. For Reverend Ike, this was way deeper. It was all part of what he called a great mystic secret, a secret about how reality itself actually works. And this whole philosophy, he gave it a name, the science of living. The main idea is this: your life, your entire experience of the world, we're talking health, money, love, everything, it isn't something that just happens to you from the outside. No, it's generated from you. It all starts inside your own consciousness.
So how does this science actually work? Well, it's built on a few key ideas. First, nothing really comes from the outside. It all starts from within you. That inner feeling you have about yourself, that's the creative power that's literally shaping your reality. And here's the kicker, it's a neutral law. It works for the good stuff and the bad stuff. Your blessings and, as he said, your curses, they're both coming from the exact same place.
So if you really buy into this way of thinking, it suddenly becomes super clear why that old way of praying just doesn't work. It's based on a totally wrong idea. The idea that all the good stuff is out there somewhere, separate from you, and you have to beg for it to be handed over.
So you've really got these 2 completely different mindsets, right? The old way is all about focusing on how you're not worthy, begging for things from a place of lack. But the new way, his science of living, is all about focusing on deservingness and simply accepting. It's a huge shift.
You're not asking for something you don't have. You're changing your inner state to one of already having it.
And this final thought from him just perfectly wraps it all up. He really saw himself as announcing a whole new way of thinking. The time for begging and pleading was over. It was time to start accepting. It was about seeing goodness not as something you have to petition a distant king for, but as your own inheritance, something that's already yours for the taking.
And that just brings this whole massive philosophy right back down to you, to us. Reverend Ike's entire system really starts and ends with this one simple but incredibly powerful question. Because if he's right, if his science of living is true, then the answer you give isn't just a random thought, it's the actual blueprint for the rest of your life.